The first thing I saw that I remember when we hit the beach was this Marine laying on his back, cut in two, right here. And he was swelling up. But his legs, his lower body was missing. And we saw it hanging in a tree. There was a big counterattack, and we were told the Japanese were coming out and coming down the coast in boats and would come in behind us. I was one of the luckiest guys in the war. Hello, my name is Charlie Rose, and I'm 99 years old, and I'm here to tell you about my story. We were assigned into the 5th Amphibious Force, Pacific Fleet. And they decided somewhere to put us on an APA, which is attack, transport, assault. And we went on, the 5 of us were put on the USS Bolivar, APA 34. And we were the signal component of the beach party. We said, oh, we're going to have a beach party, but we found out that the beach party was not a party. And then the Bolivar, we went over to Lahaina roads, and then we went on to Hilo, Hawaii, and loaded elements of the 2nd Marine Division. Then we took off for, we didn't know where we were going, but we left there. And that was my introduction to Tokyo Rose. And she told us that we were going to the Marianas, but we would never get there because submarines would take care of us. And sure enough, that evening, or late in that day, submarines hit us. They didn't hit any ship, they missed the ships. But we were surrounded by DEs, destroyer escorts. Saipan was where we were landing, and that would be my first combat. Not the ship, but the 5 signalmen that I was with. Our first combat. And we were scheduled to land in the 7th wave of troops going in. Well, came time to load. We loaded in a boat, and did our circling and all, and lined up. And then we moved up to the line of departure, the LD, and we were going in. And then they discovered that boats couldn't get in to our beach because it had been blown, the reef had been blown by the underwater demolition team in the wrong place. So now we're out there in the boat trying to get in. We can't get in to the beach. So we turned around, went to an LST, got in a water buffalo. I've forgotten that track vehicle that the Marines had, Amtrak. We got in that, and that was the scariest moment of my life. We went out on the ramp, and you sat there and you're just weaving back and forth, and all one wham. You drop into the water, and all you see are 4 walls of water around you, and suddenly you bounce back up. And you have about that much freeboard. And when we went in, there were one, two. I saw in my boat, there was an Amtrak here, and then us in the middle. So the three of us hit that reef, and we went up and up and up and trying to get over it. And this one on our left went up, 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 like that, and suddenly fell over. Took all the men with it. Needless to say, it took me with it too, mentally. And then the other one on the other side of us, it took, and the reef broke and it fell over sideways. And we were like this, teetering on that, and you could hear the reef crumbling, and finally we just fell like that forward, and we went right on in. But when we got in, the thing was so mixed up, and the previous 6 waves, they were just, well, they should have been 1,000 yards in maybe, but they were just right there, or about 100 yards in. And that's where I saw my first dead Marine. I saw my first ones killed, and you got to remember, I was a 17-year-old kid, and this was real stuff. I don't know whether I was scared. I wasn't scared for me. I was just scared. But anyway, we finally settled in and got our job was to, the beach party's job was to set up communications with the ships, open up the beach, clear the beach, and bring in supplies and evacuate the wounded. Well, it's easy to say we did that, but it was, and then the first day, or the first night I should say, we landed at 6 in the morning. But the first night, we were told there was a big counterattack, and we were told the Japanese were coming out. We were near the town of Garapan. They were coming out and coming down the coast in boats and would come in behind us. So we were all told, maintain your position, dig a foxhole. Well, my buddy and I decided we didn't need to dig a foxhole. We just, there was a great big shell hole there beside a tree. And we said, we'll just jump in that. And it's been hit, it won't be hit again. We didn't know what we were up to. All night long it was a barrage of artillery and mortar fire, both ways, and machine guns. For a farm kid from Missouri, this was big stuff. And then in the morning, well, let me digress a minute. In the evening, 2 of us were in this hole. In the morning, there were about 10 of us in that hole, and the tree was gone, and I don't know what happened, but we were under constant fire, and my back, right back there, where it's killing me now, I felt something hit me like that, and I still had a pack on. And I reached back there and I had a hot metal from the shell that had exploded. Well, I thought nothing of it. I wasn't hurt. So the next morning, we looked around, and there were dead Japanese all around us. There was a Japanese machine gun about 20 feet from me. But they were dead Japs there also. The first thing I saw that I remember when we hit the beach was this Marine laying on his back, cut in two, right here. And he was swelling up. But his legs, his lower body was missing. And we saw it hanging in a tree. So I don't know how or what happened to him, but the poor guy was cut in two. And all we saw were body parts and dead Marines. And at this point, a little bit of equipment just strewn about. But actually, we didn't see a lot of equipment. It was really amazing that those 6 waves had gone in front of us. We just saw dead Marines. So they must have been met right at the beach. When we hit the beach, most of the fire we had was indirect fire, mortars and some artillery. But I think it was mostly mortars. And until we got into maybe, I don't know, 50 yards in, and then you began to get the small arms fire. But I was lucky. I was one of the luckiest guys in the war because I survived Saipan, and that was on the 15th of June. On the 23rd of July, we landed on Guam and took it back from the Japanese had taken Guam, so we took it back from them. And that was on the, and that was pretty simple because I don't know, they didn't meet us on the beach there. The landing troops were well inland before they met the enemy. So we didn't get much fire, got a little bit, but on our beach, a Japanese plane had landed, had been shot down. And so our beach was not a beach as you view beaches, but rather it was the wreckage of this plane was spread throughout our beach and all. So it was, but we were well away from the actual battle because by this time the landing troops, the fighting troops had landed. They were probably 3 or 4 miles inland before we got there. And after Guam, which was for us was a fairly easy landing, then we went back to the Hawaii and loaded the 96th Division and elements of the 96th. And then we went down to Manus Island, north of, which is just north of New Guinea. And we spent a few days there, I guess, just resting up. Then we went over to New Guinea and we made practice landings. Those were worse than a lot of our landings. God, it was hot and humid, and sand crabs were this big. They were about 6 inches. They were all over the place, and it was pretty miserable. And hot, you could hardly move. So we made our practice landings there. Then we went over to Hollandia, which is New Guinea. And in Hollandia, we formed up with our troops, ships. That was our staging area. And then we took off, and we thought we were going to Truk, which was a small island, a Japanese strong point. And we were all betting on Truk. And then one day the captain came, got our attention and said that we were headed to the Philippines. and that we would land on the island of Leyte. So we went in, and God, I never saw so many ships. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, DEs, and troop ships. And we landed with the 96th Division. We landed on the southern coast near the town of Tacloban. And when we landed, we were under mortar fire, but our boat was hit with mortars, and we got a good dose of splinters because those plywood boats. But the boat next to us was from another ship, and it had 2 people in it. It was full of radio equipment, and it was hit twice. And when we landed and the ramp dropped on this boat beside us, and the coxswain came out of there running with his left foot just dangling. He ran till a few yards and then collapsed. And fortunately, we were landed with an Army unit that had a medic, and so our medics weren't there yet. And so he was taken care of. I don't know, he obviously lost his foot. But it was strange. We took that hit, and our boat was clouded, and nobody got hurt. We landed, and then we were under mortar fire for quite a while. But we survived that. Then, about 2 or 3 days later, well, we were unloading the ships and all, and the Filipinos came down out of the hills, and they were so helpful that they were in our way most of the time because they wanted to help. They wanted to help, and they would climb and they'd unload the boxes and unload the ammunition and everything, and do everything for us. We were all Joe. Hey, Joe this, and hey, Joe that. And they were sure glad to see us. And we landed, and we landed near Tacloban, but the beach to our left, probably a half a mile or a mile, is where General MacArthur landed. And you've seen pictures of him walking through the water and all. Well, he was down there. But the Filipinos were sure happy to see us. And then, all of a sudden, about, I don't know, second or third day, we looked up and all the ships were moving out. And what we didn't know was the Second Battle of the Philippine Sea was starting out there, and all ships had been ordered to the open sea. So they were all gone. We looked out there was no ship. Our ship was gone. And about 10 days later, a ship came by, and our chief in charge of us signaled it and got us a ride on it. So we got a ride. We said, good, where are you going? They said they were going to New Guinea. We said, we'll just go with you. Well, we went with them. And they were good to us. That's where we got our survivor pack and all that stuff, because we had nothing. We got to Alandia, and we saw a ship coming out of the harbor, and it was our ship. So the ship we were on and our ship both stopped, unloaded us. We got on our ship, and then we said, where are we going? It was going out. We were going back to the Philippines. So we went back to Leyte on the north side of Leyte and landed behind the Japanese there. P-38, only time I ever saw a P-38, and boy, they just knocked those Japanese out just like that. And then we landed there. I can't remember where we were. We were on the north side of Leyte. We unloaded the troops, and then we must have taken off and gone back. That's when I think we went to Bougainville. Yeah, we went to Bougainville and loaded elements of the 37th Army Division. And boy, were they happy, because they'd been there for 2 years. And they thought I'd been forgotten. But anyway, we took them and we landed. We were going to Lingayen Gulf, which is up on the northern part of Luzon. And so we went to up there, and that's where we began to see a lot of kamikazes. And the kamikazes, they were after us, and I'll never forget, we traveled, we had 4 columns of 5 ships in each column. And an aircraft carrier right in front of us, a baby aircraft carrier. Well, it was near late in the day when the kamikazes. And they obviously, the first thing they took out was they wanted the carrier, because we always had 2 planes circling, 2 of our planes. So, that aircraft carrier was right close to us, and a kamikaze came in and dropped a bomb. That bomb, it must have been a delayed, because it had to have penetrated quite a ways before it exploded. The pilot then went around, he came right back and dove right into that aircraft carrier. And that carrier was like this, and the decks, the hangar deck and the landing deck just rose up like that and then went back, and the carrier started going this way. And the last we saw of it, because we were moving, the last we saw of it, signalmen were sending out SOS, 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 and a couple of DEs were coming in to try to, I don't know what. Next morning the ship was gone, and we landed in the Lingayen Gulf. But I'll never forget how that one plane dropped that bomb. There were a lot of planes up there being shot at and being shot down, but this one, it dropped that bomb and went around like this and then dove right into that. And up, God, it was bad. Anyway, the thing that saved us probably was it was close to nighttime and darkness, because otherwise the submarines would have probably taken us all out. But next day we landed and that was easy landing on the Lingayen Gulf, because the beach, unprotected. It was a wide open beach. There was no trees, no nothing, no cover. So the landing troops were well inland before they met enemy fire. And we didn't see any enemy on that beach.